Hello and welcome once again to the Hellraiser blog. Big weekend of boxing we've got ahead of us, and the blog will be dominated by the big fight that we've got this weekend, the main event, AJ, Anthony Joshua, who faces Carlos Takam, French-based Cameroonian. I've actually known Takam from quite early on in his career because I'm actually half French, and I got a lot of contacts in French boxing, and he obviously was based in France for long periods of his career, and I was offered fights for guys I managed to box against him, so I'd study him. I know him quite well. Obviously you have to take someone out of the IBF ratings to face Joshua. I don't think they'd have chosen Takam at all. Although Takam is a replacement, and he's coming at relatively late notice, I would be amazed if he wasn't in good shape, because he would have been praying that something was going to go wrong and I get a chance and I can fill that gap and come in and box Joshua for probably more money than I'd imagine he's ever made in his whole career put together. And it's happened, so now he's in and he will be in good shape. I'm sure he'll be in good shape. Now, as far as being an opponent, I think avoid guys like Takam. If you look at the choice of opponent that normally they favour for Joshua, it's more upright, tall, upright, more standoffish type guys that they seem to like. Takam's a complete opposite of that. And quite often when I'm making fights, I try and think of who's this guy look comfortable against, who has this guy struggled against. And I mean, if you cast your memory back with Joshua, who has he struggled against? Well, there's three occasions that I can think of that come to mind straight away. The first one, Dillian Whyte in the amateurs. Now, Dillian Whyte, you might think that's a strange comparison to be making when you're looking at this fight, trying to work out what's going to happen, because Dillian Whyte is a little bit taller than me. I think he's about 6'4". I'm about 6'2". I think he was 6'2.5", 6'3". He's marginally bigger than me, so I think he's about 6'4". He has long arms. He has a long reach. He moves his head a lot. Okay, so these are the similarities with Takam that I see in Dillian Whyte and why they're relevant. And I'm going to explain to you, and this might lead to you understanding why I think it's actually a much better fight than what it looks at first view. So Carlos Takam is about 6'1". He's a lot shorter than Joshua. As I just mentioned, Joshua's choice of opponent, I mean, he boxed two of my guys. Matt Legg, who you'd have to say, with fairness even to Matt, wasn't quite on the level that Joshua hit skill-wise, so I don't think that was a big risk. And he boxed my guy, Rafael Zambano. Zambano is a tall guy, and all the choices, whenever they had a choice for Joshua, I know they went for tall guys. Probably for that reason that I think Robert McCracken probably knows, right, AJ does better against tall guys. He feels his way in better against tall guys. He prefers that upright, tall, like a Klitschko. Boom. I mean, but Klitschko's on a different skill level to any of the guys he fought on the way up. But I think, okay, so the fights that I think Joshua has shown signs of discomfort in have been first fight ever, the amateur fight with Dillian Whyte. Strange comparison, but I'm just saying, look, these are the reasons. Dillian Whyte moved his head a lot, very quick on his feet. And although he's 6'4", Dillian Whyte, he tends to crouch. He sort of comes down. He makes himself slightly smaller, and he has very good foot movement and head movement, as does Carlos Takam. Very light on his feet, very good head movement. Carlos Takam 6'1", but like I say, Dillian Whyte tends to sit down, and he sat down when he boxed Joshua, and he caused him problems both times. Boxing first in the amateurs and then in the pros. Both times he gave Joshua problems, and the common denominators here are his size. He is 6'4", which is shorter than Joshua, but he actually makes himself smaller than that because he sits right down. He's very compact. The next one, right, in the amateurs again, Joshua was knocked out by a guy called Mihai. It was a Romanian called Mihai Nistor. If you really follow like the amateur boxing, it was an international match, and it's not a particularly devastating stoppage or knockout, But Joshua gets stopped, and Mihai Nistor, short guy, he's actually a southpaw, so a bit different, but he's a short guy, very light on his feet, very good head movement, knew how to close distance, same as Dillian Whyte again. And same as Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam, 6'1", light on his feet, moves his head a lot, breaks down the distance very well in the second half of the fight. He knows exactly how to sit inside and, as they say in America, fight in the pocket. He's happy to sit there. He's very relaxed when he's tucked up, very compact, moves his head, sits inside, and happy to just wait for the shots to come, to rise the storm coming at him. And then he has proved effective. And I mean, if you look at Takam's fights, 2 big losses against Joseph Parker and Sasha, or Alexander, as we call him, Povetkin. Now, the Povetkin fight, to be honest, I almost discount it. Yes, he got beat, got stopped. So it was actually quite a heavy knockout. But Povetkin, quite shortly afterwards, was found to have been taken performance-enhancing Melodium, which I'm not exactly discounting the existence of the fight and the result, but if he was cheating in that fight, there's every chance that he'd have been cheating before. And for that reason, I just don't really want to take too much notice of it in the equation. Yes, he stopped him, hit him, caught him with some good shots, but Takam put up a very good fight. He made Povetkin actually look quite pedestrian at times in the fight, and that's, I think, the big danger here, is that Joshua can be made to look quite ordinary, not exciting, quite boring. Because I think Joshua has to keep it at long range. The thing is, Takam is very skilled at doing what he does, at slipping inside. So there might be a point where Joshua actually decides, you know what, sod this, I can't do what I'm doing. It's going to be boring, for one, fighting at long range, popping in with a jab all night. And secondly, I think Joshua's the kind of guy who wants to get people out there. His mentality is not to, I mean, look, he's knocked everyone out so far, including Klitschko. He's going to want to cause big problems. Klitschko, of course, is the other person that caused major worries to Joshua. And there is a similarity, I think, with Takam and with Klitschko. And that is that they're both proven campaigners at world class. No one else really. Dillian Whyte's a good fighter. He's not proven at world class. Most of these guys, they're actually, that Joshua has fought so far, I mean, Charles Martin, you know, they're on paper, yes, in the ratings and, you know, good class boxers, but not world class. Not for me ever, any of them in the top 10. Whereas Takam is, and Klitschko is. So don't be surprised if we see AJ, I think, really dragged into deep water by Takam, who is looked at by the bookmakers certainly as a huge outsider. I mean, odds were varying from, like, I think 25-1 to 66-1 on him. Whoever made those odds, they're not right. For me, they're not correct. I think AJ probably has to up the tempo here, because if he lets Takam dictate the pace, that's when he's going to really have a problem, because Takam has all the tricks up his sleeve, if you like, to really drag AJ into a horrible fight for AJ. So what we really need, I think, is for AJ to look good and to win well. I think he has to actually force the pace while staying at long range. If you look at fighters like Roberto Duran as a lightweight, like Tommy Hearns, they were guys who were tall, sort of skinny. Roberto Duran once was skinny as a lightweight. And they were able to force the pace. And I think Joshua, maybe not on the skill level the same as them, but that's what he's got to do here. He's got to use that reach and use the positioning that he can force in the ring to dictate the pace of the fight, and also the positioning in the ring. Joshua has to take control of that. If he, for whatever reason, and we've seen Joshua seemingly gas out in fights before, which worries me, because it makes me think Takam will wait for that. He'll be, before the fight's even started, that's exactly what he'll be looking for. And when that moment arises, he'll jump on it. He won't wait for opportunity to knock twice. You know, he'll be on it straight away. And he'll be looking to land that big right hand over the top and the left hook. And I think it makes for a really... I mean, I'd much rather watch this fight, even though Kubrat Pulev was rated higher by pretty much everybody than Takam, and probably, has better form on paper. I think this is a much better fight, because I think Kubrat Pulev is like a worse version of what Klitschko does. He's a tall guy, good jab. Joshua sometimes seems to struggle with good jabbers, but he has a good jab himself, and I just think it was a foregone conclusion that eventually he'd have ground down Kubrat Pulev. With Takam, I think you've got a completely different set of circumstances. I saw on Reuters, there was a press release that was saying like Joshua's not going to change his style for this guy, just going to go... That for me is a big mistake. That's really rolling the dice when it doesn't need to be rolled, and that for me is like taking a big chance, because you try and box a short, stocky guy that moves well, that you know is a good counterpuncher, that you know can move his head, that's very compact, that can cut down the distance very quickly and almost effortlessly. It comes naturally to Takam. That's the only way he knows how. He's a 6'1" heavyweight. He knows he has to get in close, and he's done it all his career. He's always had to fight that way, and that's the way you have to fight against Joshua. And I think people that are just missing his opportunity, his chances, are way off the mark. I mean, they say styles makes fights, and I think Takam's style makes this a much better fight than what we had in the first place. So people demanding refunds on tickets, or thinking, oh, I'm not going to buy the pay-per-view, that doesn't make sense to me, because I think what we've actually got now is a much better fight, potentially will be much better spectacle. And I think we were much bigger chance of seeing Joshua dragged into deep waters and dragged into a situation that he does not want to be in. But obviously, like I said, they have to get someone from the IBF. He's fighting someone shorter who has long arms. You've got to look again, this going back to the similarities. Carlos Takam, 6'1", his reach is 204 centimetres. Dillian Whyte, 6'4", but crouches, his reach is 1.98 m. So Takam has a longer reach than Dillian Whyte, reportedly. I didn't measure them myself, but that's what the stats are. For me, it spells problems for Joshua. I mean, yes, it's at short notice for Takam, but I know these guys, like an African guy, right? An African guy knows they're never going to choose him as the opponent, because to make the most money, to optimise financially, to make the most money, you want an American guy or a British guy, or someone at least that's familiar in Europe. Pulev was built up in Europe by Sauerland promotions. You want someone that people recognise, because that generates viewers, it generates advertising, it generates ticket sales, it generates pay-per-view sales. There is no pay-per-view in Africa. Oh, in South Africa there is, but nowhere else. Only there. And Takam's not from South Africa, it's from Cameroon. So they're never going to choose him. So he knows his chance to fight Joshua is to come in as a replacement. He'd be praying every fight, right, let's hope this guy gets injured, I'm in. And he's not a malicious guy, he wouldn't want it nastily. It's just that he wants to fight for the title, and if he's going to fight for the title, it needs to be on a pull-out. They had a pull-out, he was ready, good luck to him. Don't be surprised if Takam is in absolutely A1 shape, not in the sort of shape you'd expect a late substitute to be. He might be, but I can't believe that would happen. I absolutely cannot imagine that's going to be the case. I mean, he'll be in very good nick. I think he would have studied Joshua from way back, and he would have prepared. I know he was down to box on another show, but I think he would have prepared as though he's fighting Joshua, just on that off chance that he gets the call, and he's got it, and I think you're going to see a very good